Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to Australian Immigration News. This weekly show is proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services right here in Sydney. Finally, this week, New South Wales and South Australia have opened their doors for sponsored 491 and 190 visas. The requirements for New South Wales are the same as before, except they have made this note very clear. New South Wales will prioritise EOIs in occupations that fall under our key industry sectors: health, education, ICT and infrastructure during the invitation rounds. The state will start issuing 190 invitations from this week, but the 491 invitations will come later after they clear through any undecided remaining applications lodged before the end of last financial year. With regard to South Australia, there are significant changes. Although they have the usual many occupations on their list, the requirements are significantly harder for onshore applicants. Scrapped are the benefits for certain graduates of South Australia, which used to give them exemptions from the work experience component. Now they will all have to obtain their work experience in their nominated occupations or closely related occupations for at least 6 months to be considered. The outer regional stream has now disappeared altogether, right when hundreds were waiting for the state to open to make their applications. The outer regional stream gave applicants a chance for the 491 visa if they had been living and working in outer South Australian regional areas and working in any occupation for 6 months. It seems that outer regional workers now no longer have value to the state and are now discarded into the scrap heap. This is more than just disappointing. It should be called out for what it is: blatant fraud, deception and exploitation. They are real people, many with dependent family members who made an effort to move to outer regional areas where few Australians wanted to go and work. Now, as they are ready to apply, all that hard work has been for nothing. And to make matters worse, they have waited an extra 3 months and longer for South Australia to open again, looking for their chance. And what for? Absolutely nothing. The South Australian government is devoid of any basic considerations for the people they are happy to discard. If you are thinking of moving to South Australia to work or study for a sponsorship outcome, do so at your own risk. The other changes the South Australian government has introduced is the registration of interest system, similar to the one in Victoria. This too makes the prospect of gaining an invitation less certain. For offshore applicants, there are a number of occupations open to you, but they are limited, and you'll find those by looking at the South Australian occupation list on their website. In general, South Australia will prioritise the following target sectors to send out invitations: health and medical sciences, trades and construction, early childhood and teaching, digital technology, food and agribusiness, creative industries, tourism and hospitality. In the revised Working in South Australia stream, the same priority sectors apply, but there is an additional resources energy added to the list. This stream's new requirements are that you must have resided in 12 months in South Australia and worked in your nominated occupation or closely related for at least 6 months at 30 hours per week. However, be warned, who's to say even before you meet that 12-month threshold, say by the next financial year, South Australia may have changed the requirements yet again. This week, the federal government has released what is called the Employment White Paper. These white papers are strategic plans in various national interest sectors. So what's this Employment White Paper got to do with migration? Well, that's because the current Albanese government wants to use migration pathways to contribute to these employment strategies. The new migration strategy, which is due to be released in the next few weeks, is an important component to reach these higher ideals of employment outcomes. Here's what the Minister Claire O'Neill had to say in a joint press release during the week.
The migration strategy, which will be the first time our country has ever had a strategy that defines our migration system, will be released in the coming weeks. We see this as twin products that we are going to use every lever of national power to make sure we drive productivity growth so that Australians can get higher wages and better jobs.
Now, these days, as soon as anyone talks about migration, the issue of housing is raised as a reason to reduce immigrants. However, a new reality is starting to sink in. Who is going to build all the new houses we so desperately need? Should we be choosing construction tradespeople before doctors, nurses and teachers? The government this week set a target of 1.2 million homes to be built in the next 5 years. The ABC News briefing program ran this story talking to Brickworks Chief Executive Lindsay Partridge, who has called for 500,000 tradies needed to reach this government target.
No use bringing in doctors and nurses because there's nowhere for them to live, and we need to bring in tradesmen to build those houses. And a lot of tradesmen, they don't have fixed base wages, and so they've got to make some arrangement where contractors can come in. And we know places like the UK, for example, housing's down 50%, so there'll be plenty of bricklayers in the UK that want to come to Australia. You know, we need to get them in by the thousands and tens of thousands. I mean, we need 500,000 homes or something of that order in the next couple of years. You need 500,000 tradespeople to build them, you know, and that's a city the size of Canberra. Like, to put it in sort of perspective.
So hundreds of thousands of tradespeople needed to immigrate here so we can find a place to live. And how exactly are all these tradespeople going to get here quickly? You cannot rely on the 482 visa to bring them in, for most building companies are having financial difficulties just trying to stay afloat. And for the PR applications, Trade Recognition Australia is taking 6 months and more just to get a skill assessment. And that's now. How do you think they're going to cope with an extra 100,000 to 200,000 applications? Yes, you're right, they won't. They should just make it simple and straightforward for tradies and perhaps other occupations as well. Skill assessments should be scrapped altogether. If you work in an occupation, say for a minimum of 5 years, and you have a trade certificate or other license in your own country, and you have competent English, well, that should be enough. Get them in here to start work. When they arrive in Australia, no employer is going to ask them about their skilled migration assessment. It's a waste of time and money, and it's time that we do not have. If we're going to meet these housing targets for real, we need realistic migration targets as well.
We've only got capacity to do about 175 or 180,000 homes with the current trade level. If you want to go to 250, well, you know, that's, you know, what's that, another third more or half more trade. So the only way you're going to get them in the short term is they've got to be immigrated. You can't train those people in that time, let alone build the houses.
With the pressure of migration still in the news, the Immigration Minister Andrew Giles saw it was time to hold a press conference and brief us all on the progress of visa processing times. This is what he had to say. Now, in terms of key visa categories, I'm very pleased to report the wait times are down across all of them. For example, a temporary skilled work visa now takes 11 days to process, down from 50 days. That's 50. Student visas are now being processed in 10 days instead of 40. Initial partner visas, which I know are critically important to so many, are now being processed at the first stage for 5 months, which is nearly half the time it was a year or so ago. Now we know there is more to do. The Minister went on to say there are 2 visa categories within his sights to improve the processing times. The first is the 888 visa applicants who have been on hold for some time already, where he said, I've recently asked the department to prioritise this group to make sure that people who have made a strong commitment to Australia are able to progress towards that permanent visa, and I do expect that most of these applications will be assessed by the end of the year. I'm aware that the wait times are very, very long, often unrealistically so, and I want to be clear also in saying that reform in this area is a priority for the government, and one of the key reasons why we're focusing so hard on putting investments into the visa system and dealing with the backlogs is to create space for reforms in critical areas such as this. Unfortunately though, that comment about clearing space for reforms is a little concerning. Let's hope the parent visa permanent residency program remains as it is. Well, we don't have the official processing times out yet, but I'm sure there will still be many more visas that need attention, particularly the 300 and 309 visa backlogs and any of the 887 or 489 applications still left. And now it's time for one of our readers' comments. Richard writes in to tell us his good news. I would like to thank you for your professional services in 2020. It was regarding the possibility to work in any regional area with the 491 visa. Finally, I received my permanent residency visa 191 2 weeks ago after working for 3 years in other regional areas. Congratulations to you, Richard, and eventually, hopefully, everyone will realise that gaining your permanent residence or citizenship has nothing to do whether you have remained in the regional areas that sponsored you. Just this week, we received 2 191 visa grants that only took 2 weeks after lodgement, thanks to the department where credit is due. And thanks for not letting these visas end up like the old 887 PR subclass. Well, no 189 invitations so far to report of that I know. If anyone has received any, please write in the comments. Remember, if you need help, we have been here for nearly 25 years doing exactly that for tens of thousands of visa applicants. Book a consultation on our website or just pick up that phone. Don't forget to hit the like icon to help our video along. And if you don't want to miss the latest, subscribe and turn on your notification setting. Lots more news happening soon, so stay tuned. As always, take care out there and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.